Hello, I'm Hình Anh. I I will be your host today. Well, the objective of my presentation is to inform you about the revision of the present and past tenses. Hoàng Hà and I will be in charge of it. So let's get started. Before we get to the uses of the present simple, there are two main sections that are the form and the spelling. Here is the form of the present simple. Next, we have the spelling. For the third person singular, he, she, it, we add to the end of most verbs. Like start to starts, play to plays. We add es if the verb ends in sh, s, sh, o. Teaches, goes, misses, does. And if the verb ends in a consonant plus y, we change y to I and add es, like study to studies, carry to carries. The third person singular form of have is has. To begin with is general time. There are four main uses of the simple present. The first one is to talk about the timeless truths, permanent situations, or things that happen regularly, repeatedly, or all the time. Like what do frogs eat? Not what are frogs eating? Alex works for an insurance company, which is a permanent situation, and I play tennis every Wednesday. That is the things that happen repeatedly. However, we don't use the simple present to talk about the temporary situation that are only going on around the present. Like the water boils at 100 Celsius and the kettle is boiling. Shall I make a tea? Not the kettle boils. I play tennis every Wednesday. Where's Bernard? He is playing tennis, not he plays tennis. Now, we will move on the non-progressive verbs. What is the biggest problem that most of us usually make mistakes? Well, that are some verbs we don't use in progressive form. Please have a look at it and take note. Their meaning is usually connected with a state rather than an action. They include hate, like, love, need, prefer, want, wish, believe, know, mean, realize, recognize, remember, suppose, understand, belong, contain, depend, matter, owe, possess. I don't understand the task. Not I am not understanding the task. In addition, we don't normally use the simple present to talk about the future. Like, I promise I won't smoke anymore. Not I promise I don't smoke. There's a doorbell. I will get it. Not I get it. However, the simple present is used for timetable future events. His train arrives at 11:46. I start my new job tomorrow. At 11:46 and tomorrow are both the fixed time in the future events, which are the keywords for us to use the simple present. And the simple present is often used instead of will in subordinate the clause that refer to the future. Like, I will kill anybody who touches my things, not who will touch. And the simple present is also used in suggestions with why don't you? Like, why don't you take a day off tomorrow? Furthermore, when we talk about a series of completed actions and events in demonstrations, commentaries, instructions, and present tense stories, like first I take a bowl and break two eggs into it, not first I am taking. That is for the demonstration. But how do I get to the station? You go straight on until you reach the traffic lights, then you turn left. That is for the instruction. But the questions how long, the present tense are not used. Instead of it, we will use a present perfect or a perfect tense to say how long a present action or situation has been going on. Like, I have known her since 1980, 90.
Uh, so moving on, I'm gonna present you some important points of present progressive tense. As you might know, we can form present continuous tense with the present simple form of be and a suffix ing. Looking through the board we are presenting on the screen, you can easily divide the form of present progressive into three parts: affirmative, negative, and questions. For example, I'm playing. You aren't playing. Are you playing? To form the ing form, we add ing to the end of most verbs. And with most verbs end in e, we drop the e and add ing. However, if the verb ends in double e, we just need to add ing to the verb. In the next situation, if the verb ends in ie, we must change the ie to y and add ing. In the next case, if the verb ends in a short accented vowel with a consonant, we double the consonant and add ing. To the second part, I'm going to remind you about the uses of past progressive. We use the present progressive to talk about temporary situations that are going on now or around now, before, during, and after the moment of speaking. For example, hurry up, we are all waiting for you. The sentence is talking about a temporary action and situation going on at the moment the speaker is speaking. We are all worrying for you while you crying. This sentence is talking about an action happening around the time the speaker is speaking. The present progressive can refer to repeated actions and events if these are just happening around the present. For example, why is he hitting a dog? I'm traveling a lot these days. Present progressive also be used with time expressions such as always, constantly, continually, and all the time. The present continuous can express frequently repeated actions which annoy the speaker. Thirdly, we also use the present progressive to talk about developments and changes. We also use present progressive to talk about the future. There is something we wanna warn you. Present progressive cannot be used in some cases. In the first situation, we do not normally use the present progressive to talk about permanent situations or about things that happen regularly, repeatedly, or all the time. So let's make a comparison between the two sentences. Look, the cat is eating your breakfast. And what do bears eat? Everything. The first sentence describes an action happening at the same time as spoken. The second sentence describes a fact. So, to the next example, the first the first sentence is describe an action. The first sentence. Ta nói lại cái slide này được không? So in the next case, I want to emphasize that some words are not generally used in progressive forms, even if the meaning is just around now. For example, I like the swine. Do you believe what he says? We use a present perfect tense. We use a perfect tense, not a present tense, to say how long something has been going on. For example, I have been learning English for years, not I'm learning English for years. Next, let's make a comparison between present simple and present progressive. Usually, present simple is used to talk about something that always happens or happens regularly, maybe every week or maybe just sometimes, and talk about general facts that everyone knows. For example, Tamar cycles to school every day, or cows eat grass. Present continuous describes something happening at this exact moment, or rather time the speaker is speaking, or to making future arrangements. For example, Dan is wearing a t-shirt at the moment the speaker is speaking, or we are playing volleyball tomorrow.
So I am going to focus on the 7 main points of the advanced section. I would like to begin with by repeated actions, telling you when to use the simple present or the present progressive. With the repeated actions and events happening around the moment of speaking, we will use the present progressive. Like, why is he hitting the dog? Jack is seeing a lot of felicity these days. And with the repeated actions and events are not closely connected to the moment of speaking, we will use the present simple instead. Like, water boils at 100 Celsius, not water is boiling at 100 Celsius. And I go to the mountains about twice a year. But we can use the present progressive for things that are going on around these actions and events. Like at 7, when the mail comes, I'm usually having breakfast. You look lovely when you are smiling. So that covers everything I want to say about, and continuing with is for the long-lasting changes. Present progressive is used for changes and developments, even if these are very long-lasting. Like, the climate is getting warmer, not the climate gets warmer. The universe is expanding and has been since its beginning. Now, let's move on to my next topic, which is sometimes we do things by saying special words like promising, agreeing, and simple present is used in these cases. I promise never to smoke again. Not I am promising. I agree, not I am agreeing. He denies the accusation, not he is denying. And the simple present is also used with a perfect kind of meaning, which is equal to I have learned in introductory expressions like I hear, I see, I gather, and I understand. I hear you are getting married is equal to I have heard. I see there's been trouble down at the factory. I gather Daniels is looking for a job. And other people's statements, opinions are often introduced with says. It says in the paper that petrol's going up again. Note that you all remember what Hamlet says about suicide. Moving on to is the structure. Here comes. I would like to elaborate on this point for a few minutes. Here or there comes, is or goes is not an ordinary declaration sentence, but an exclamatory idiom, typically employed to draw the hearer's attention to the arrival, presence, or departure of someone or something noteworthy. The canonical sentence is rearranged to put the subject in the new information position at the end of the sentence, where it has takes the sentence primary emphasis, like here comes your husband, and the action here comes is emphasized. Furthermore, verbs refer to the physical feelings, like feel, hurt, ache, can often be used in simple or progressive tenses without much difference of meaning, like how do you feel or how are you feeling. My head aches, not my head, or my head is aching. Before I finish, I would like to leave you with one final notion: the formal correspondence. Some fixed phrases that are used in letters, emails, can be expressed either in simple present, which is for more formal, and the present progressive for the less formal. Please look at the examples. I write to advise you, which is for the more formal one, and less formal is we are writing to let you know. And I look forward to hearing from you, which is for more formal situation, and the less formal I am looking forward to hearing.
Now we shall move on to the next part. Phải tắt mic của mày được không? Now we shall move on to the next part, present perfect simple and present perfect continuous. So first, let me give you a small review of how present perfect simple tense works. Looking on the chart we are presenting on the screen, you can conclude that the affirmative and negative form of the tense is not too different. Subject with auxiliary plus past participle plus forward tense. For example, she has lived here for over 30 years. I haven't played tennis since my accident. We can form present perfect question with how long plus auxiliary plus subject with a past participle verb. For example, how long have you known Maya? How long has she lived here? Next, I shall tell you about the uses of present perfect symbol. We use the present perfect especially to say that a finished action or event is connected with the present in some way. If we say that something has happened, we are thinking about the past and the present at the same time. For example, I can't go skiing because I have broken my leg. A present perfect sentence often corresponds to a present tense sentence expressing the same facts. For example, I have broken my leg. My leg is broken now. The present perfect is often used to express the idea of completion or achievement. For example, at last I have finished. Have you done all the housework? We do not use the present perfect if we are not thinking about the present. For example, I have traveled in Africa a lot. Besides, present perfect is used to show that you are thinking about the past and the present at the same time. When we talk about finished events with words that mean at some or any time up to now, like ever, before, never, yet, recently, lately, already, we normally use the present perfect. For example, have you ever seen a ghost? She has never said sorry in her life. We haven't seen Beth recently. I have already done it. We can also use the present perfect to say that something has happened several times up to the present. For example, I have written 6 emails since lunchtime. Adverbs of frequency like often, sometimes, occasionally are common with the present perfect. For example, how often have you been in love in your life? To talk about actions and situations that have continued up to the present, both the simple present perfect and the present perfect progressive are possible. For example, I have known her for years. I have been thinking about you all day. We use since to talk about the time when an activity started. This can be a date, a day, a month, a time or an event, like since 1903, since yesterday, since May, since 8 a.m., since my birthday, since I was 10 years old. For example, I have been here since 8 a.m. I haven't seen you since the wedding. We often use the past symbol after since. For example, she has had that car since she started learning to drive. We use the question form how long to ask about the period of time an activity has continued for and reply with for plus the period of time, or we can reply with since with the time when the activity started. For example, how long have you known Maya? You can either answer by for 6 years or since I was 12. So in the next few minutes, I'm gonna remind you about the form and uses of present perfect progressive. As you can see on the screen, we can easily form present perfect progressive by adding an ing verb after has or has been. For example, I have been thinking about you. Have you been waiting long? I haven't been studying very well recently. We use the present perfect progressive to look back over actions and situations which started in the past and are still going on. For example, I have been working very hard recently. It's been raining all day. I'm tired of it. We often use the present perfect progressive to talk about people's use of time up to the present. For example, that kid has been watching TV non-stop since breakfast. Present perfect progressive is used to talk about actions and situations which started in the past and are still going on. For example, that kid has been watching TV non-stop. House prices have been going up steadily this year. Present perfect progressive is also used to talk about actions and events that have just stopped but have an impact on the present result. For example, you look hot. Yes, I have been running. Sorry I'm late. Have you been waiting long? We can use the present perfect progressive not only for continuous activity but also for repeated activity. For example, people have been phoning me all day. I have been waking up in the night a lot. I think I'll see a doctor. We often use the present perfect progressive with words that refer to a period of time continuing up to now, like recently, lately, this week, since January, for the last 3 days. For example, the company has been losing money recently. Jack has been working in Scotland all this week. Please make sure to take a note yourself that we cannot use the present perfect progressive with expressions that refer to a finished period of time. For example, you look tired. Yes, I was cycling from 10 this morning until 5 o'clock. Not I have been cycling from 10 this morning until 5 o'clock. We can also use present perfect progressive to talk about how long something has been happening. For example, how long have you been studying English? Not how long are you studying English? I have been working here for 2 months. Not I'm working here for 2 months. In some cases, we can also use the simple present perfect to talk about actions and situations continuing up to the present. Let's make a comparison. How long have you been knowing her? How long have you known her? You can conclude that there are no difference between these two sentences, which means the tenses are interchangeable. Grammar sometimes simply say that present perfect progressive is used for actions or situations that started in the past and are still going on. This is true but incomplete and unhelpful. To talk about actions and situations that started in the past and are still going on, We normally use present tenses. Everything is going on now started in the past. The difference is that we use the present perfect progressive when we are looking back over something that is still going on. For example, when we say how long it has lasted. Let's make another comparison between the two sentences "It's raining" and "It has been raining all day." So we can see that the first sentence "It's raining" shows that the event is happening when the speaker is speaking. The second one "It has been raining all day" emphasizes the length of time the event raining has been happening. To the next stage, there are something that I want you to take note down. The contrast between present perfect simple and present perfect continuous. First of all, some words are not used in progressive forms, even if the meaning is one for which a progressive form is more suitable. Common examples are be, have, and know. There are some more specific examples, like Jack has been ill all week, or I have only known her for 2 days. As you can see, present perfect continuous is more likely to be used in these cases, but in fact we can only use present perfect simple. We use progressive forms mostly for shorter, temporary actions and situations. When we talk about longer-lasting or permanent situations, we often prefer the simple present perfect. For example, I have been playing the piano all afternoon and am really tired. He hasn't worked for years. We use the simple present perfect to say how much we have done or how often we have done something. For example, I have been planting rose bushes all afternoon. Look at all the rose bushes I have planted. We use the present perfect to say how long a situation or action has continued up to now. For example, it's raining again, and it's been raining since Christmas. How long are you here for, and how long have you been here for?
So we will move on to the past simple. Again, there are two main sections that are form and spelling. The first one is the form. The affirmative form of the past simple is the same for all the persons, singular and plural, I, you, he, we, etc. Like I watched a football match last night. She watched a TV. They watched a DVD. And we will move on to the spelling. We form the past simple affirmative form of regular verbs by adding ed. And if the verb ends in e, we just add d. Like, and if the verb ends in consonant plus y, we change y to I and add ed. If the verb ends in a short accent vowel plus a consonant, we double the consonant and add ed. Note: some verbs have irregular past simple affirmative forms, There are no spelling rules for these forms. You need to learn them by heart. The verb be has two past simple affirmative forms that are was and were. Like I was sad. He, we, you, they were sad. He, she, it was sad. Moving on is for the negative of the question. In the negative sentences and questions, we use did or didn't plus the infinitive without to, not past simple form. For regular and irregular verbs, the forms are the same for all the person, singular and plural, I, you, he, we. Like I didn't watch. Did I watch? He, she, it didn't watch, or did we, you, they watch. And the short form of did not is didn't. And the short answer is yes, I did. No, I didn't. We don't use did or didn't for the past simple negative and questions form of be or can. Forms of could are the same for all the person, I, he, we, they. Like in the negative column, I, he, she, it wasn't happy. And in the questions and short answer, we have we were, we, you, they happy? Yes, they were, or no, they weren't. In the negative of can, we just simply I, he, she, it. We, you, they couldn't. Or with the question, could I, he, she, it, we, you, they see? Or yes, he, or he, I, we could. Or no, she, you, they couldn't. Before now we'll move on to the uses. There are three main uses of the past simple. To begin with is the general events. For many kinds of past events like short, quickly finished actions and happenings, longer situations and repeated events. Daniel broke a window last night. Regularly every summer, Jessica fell in love. So, the action broke a window last night is the short and quickly finished action, and regularly every summer, Jessica fell in love. That is for the repeated event. Now, we will move on for the storytelling. The past simple is common in stories. Descriptions. Like one day, the princess decided that she didn't like staying at home all day, so she told her father that she wanted to get a job. Simple past with finished time expression. Furthermore, the past simple is used with words referring to a finished times. I saw Jack yesterday morning. He told me. So we can come into the conclusion that the simple past tense is a preferred tense to use when talking about the past. We use it when we do not have a special reason for using one of the other tenses.
The second tense I want to talk about is past progressive, which can be formed by was or were with the ing form of the verb. Looking at the board we are presenting on the screen, you can clearly see that I and he, she, it go with was plus verb ing. For example, I was playing, he wasn't playing, was she playing? You and we, they go with were with verb ing. For example, you were playing, You weren't playing. Were they playing? So, to form the ing form, we add ing to the end of most verbs. With most verbs ending in "e", we drop the "e" and add ing. However, if the verb ends in double "e", we just need to add ing to the verb. In the next situation, if the verb ends in "ie", we must change the "ie" to "y" and add ing. In the next case, if the verb ends in a short accented vowel with a consonant, we double the consonant and add ing. Move on to the next part. I want to talk about the uses of past progressive. In general, there are two main uses of past progressive. First of all, we often use past progressive to set a scene. For example, the sun was shining brightly. Some tourists were standing in the square. A man was selling ice creams. Secondly, past progressive is used to talk about an action that was in progress at a particular time. For example, at 7 o'clock in this morning, I was eating my breakfast. Noticeably, when we use the past continuous with two or more actions, we do not need to repeat the subject. For example, I or we or was were if the subject is the same. For example, we were sitting at a table chatting and drinking coffee. We use the past progressive to say that something was in progress around a particular past time. For example, what were you doing at 8 o'clock yesterday evening? The past progressive is not the normal tense for talking about repeated or habitual past actions. The simple past is usually used with this meaning. For example, she said she believed Joe was dying. The past progressive, like the other progressive forms, is used for temporary actions and situations. When we talk about longer, more permanent situations, we use the simple past. It happened while I was living in Eastbourne last year. I lived in London for 10 years while I was a child. Besides those general uses of past progressive, there are some special uses that we need to pay close attention to. First of all, we can make something seem less important by using past progressive. For example, I had lunch with the president yesterday. In this sentence, we can clearly see that the information "the speaker had lunch with the president yesterday" is the most important information that the speaker wants to highlight in the sentence. However, in the second sentence, "I was having lunch with the president yesterday, and she said," and so on, we can sense that the thing that the speaker had lunch with the president is nothing special. Uh, when what the president gonna say next is the main point of the sentence, or in other words, as if there was nothing special for the speaker about lunching with the president. The second special use of past progressive is to give some relative importance to the following verb to what is said. For example, Jack was saying that he still can't find a job. Moreover, with always, continually, and similar words, the past progressive can be used for things that happen repeatedly and unexpectedly or in an unplanned way. For example, Aunt Lucy was always turning up without warning and bringing us presents. As we research, as or while can be used with the past continuous with a comma between the longer action and the interruption. For example, while we were having lunch, my uncle arrived. As we were having lunch, my uncle arrived. You can clearly see that having lunch is the longer action, which was then interrupted by the uncle's arrival, or in other words, the verb arrived. We can also add a when as a relative clause in these sentences, but without including a comma. For example, we were having lunch when my uncle arrived. However, you must be cautious. We do not use the past continuous or any continuous tenses with certain verbs. The meaning of these verbs is usually connected with a state rather than an action. They usually include the words that we are presenting on the screen, so please take a note down or tap the screen to review it later. For example, they weren't dancing because they didn't like the music. Not, they weren't dancing because they weren't liking the music. Moreover, some verbs are not used in continuous tenses when they have a particular meaning, like the verb have when it means to own or possess. For example, he had dark hair and was wearing a white t-shirt. Not, he was having dark hair and was wearing a white t-shirt.
Welcome to my advanced points. And what I intend to do is to present to you the advanced point. What I hope you will get from my talk is a clearer view of this advanced point. There are 5 notions in total. I would like to begin with the cause and origins. Please remember that the present perfect is used to think about past events together with their present result. I can't come to your party because I have broken my leg. And with the past tense, to identify the person, object, or circumstances that's responsible for the present situation. Look what Jack has given me. The action has just given is think about the gift. And who gave you that? The action gave, which means to think about the past action of giving. This leads me directly to my next point, which is expectations and reality, referring to a belief that has just been shown to be true or false. It's not as big as I expected, not as I have expected. You are older than I thought, not than I have thought. But you promised, not but you have promised. The next point I would like to talk about is times of events. For the first notion, with always, never, ever, never, referring to up to now. I always knew I could trust you, or I have always known. Both of them can be used interchangeably, or like, did you ever see anything like that before, or have you ever seen, is the same too. In addition to with today, this week, while both express time up to now. However, the present perfect is for the whole period up to now, while the simple past is referring to a finished part of period. Has Anna phoned today, meaning any time up to now. Or did Anna phone today, which means earlier when the call was expected. So that covers the two notions that I want to say about, and continuing with is the two main points which gives you such an astonishing knowledge. The significance of this is the present perfect with the past time expressions. I have seen him, or I saw him yesterday, not I have seen him yesterday. I cannot emphasize this strongly enough. That is, such structures are rarely seen. It is more present in brief news items, where space is limited and there is pressure to announce the news and give the details in the same clause. Like, police have arrested more than suspected drug traffickers in raids throughout the country on Friday and Saturday. Or a 24-year-old soldier has been killed in a road accident last night. And a horse trainer has had a winner here yesterday. Normally, when we say on a fixed time in the past, for example, on Friday and Saturday, or last night or yesterday, we usually use the simple past. But please remember, there are some signals that they can be used with the present perfect with the past time expressions, like what I am presenting you on the screen. Before I finish, I would like to give you one more notion, that is simple past for news. With the British outlets uses simple past for brief informing purposes, like an unnamed businessman was shot dead by terrorists. A woman was jailed for 6 months after taking a baby boy from his mother. American, with American English, used to give news and indefinite past time and verbs, like adverbs like already, yet, ever, and before. It seems like American English is much more comfortable and easier to use than the British one. We have did you eat already, or have you eaten, while the British English is have you eaten already? I didn't call Bobby yet, or I haven't called. British English is I haven't called. there are some signals for you to for the first one is for the definite time. The present perfect is not used with a finished time, but with exact definite time expression. I've lived, I've lived here for exactly 3 years, 7 months, and 2 days. That is the present perfect with very definite time reference. Once upon a time, a little girl lived with her mother in a lonely house in a dark forest. Here is the note for you. The present perfect and all the simple past does not depend on a finished action, but it can be dependent on a finished time period. And the second one is for the recent action. The use of the present perfect does not depend on whether action and events are recent. Recent events are more likely to be news, and we are more likely to be concerned about their present results. Though it is possible to use the present perfect to talk about things that happened a long time ago. Like the French Revolution has influenced every popular radical movement in Europe since 18,000. That is, the since 18,000 is a 200-year-old event. So we'll use the present perfect. And for the second example, Anna phoned 5 minutes ago. With the 5 minutes ago is a very recent event, so we will use the simple past. And the next one is for the they are both possible. The difference between the present perfect and the simple past is not always very clear. It depends on our focus and the present prevalence of a past events, the past details. Like, we have heard that you have rooms to let, or we heard. Has Mark phoned, or did Mark phone? I have given, or I gave your old radio to Philip.
Moving on to the second advanced point, we might go through a small revision first, which consists of three smaller parts: form, meaning and use, unreal events, and time description. We form the past perfect symbol with subject plus had or had done with past participle. The form is the same for all persons. For example, I had passed the test. She hadn't seen the film before. The grammar structures of questions is question word, which can be added or not, plus auxiliary plus subject with past participle. For example, had she passed the test? Where had they seen the film before? The basic meaning of the past perfect is earlier past. A common use is to go back for a moment when we are already talking about the past to make it clear that something had already happened at the time we are talking about. For example, during our conversation, I realized that we had met before. The past perfect is common after past verbs of saying and thinking to talk about things that had happened before the saying or thinking took place. For example, I told her that I had finished, not that I have finished. Despite the common usage, there are other purposes when using this tense. For example, Alex Carey, who worked for my father since the 1980s, is now living in Greece. After if, wish, and would rather, the past perfect can be used to talk about past events that did not happen. For example, if I had gone to university, I would have studied medicine. I wish you had told me the truth. I'd rather she had asked me before borrowing the car. We use a past perfect, not a simple past, to say how long something has continued up to the past moment. A simple past perfect is used with non-progressive verbs like be, have, and know. For example, she told me that her father had been ill since Christmas. I was sorry to sell my car. I had had it since college. Moving on to the next part, I want to tell you about some advanced points of past perfect tense consists of 5 smaller parts. Past perfect or simple past with after or as soon as. Unrealized hopes and wishes. Past perfect with it was the first or second that. Past perfect progressive and progressive and simple tense. We can use time conjunctions, for example, after, as soon as, when, once, to talk about two actions or events that happened one after the other. Usually the past perfect is not necessary in these cases because we are not going back from the time that we are merely talking about, but simply moving forward from one event to the next. For example, after it got dark, we came back inside. As soon as Megan arrived, we sat down to eat. However, we can use the past perfect with after, as soon as, and so on, to emphasize that the first action is separate, independent of the second, completed before the second started. For example, she didn't feel the same after her dog had died. Or as soon as he had finished his exams, he went to Paris for a month. The past perfect can be used to express an unrealized hope, wish, and so on. Had is usually stressed in this case. I had hoped we would leave tomorrow, but it won't be possible. He had intended to make a cake, but he ran out of time. We generally use a past perfect after it was the first or second that. For example, it was the first time I had heard her sing. It was the 5th time she had asked the same question. It was only the second opera I had seen in my life. Next, I'm gonna talk about past perfect progressive. As you might know, past perfect progressive is usually used to talk about actions or situations which has continued up to the past moment that we are thinking about or short-lived for it. For example, at that time we had been living in the caravan for about 6 months. However, you must notice that past perfect progressive is used with actions or situations which had continued up to the past moment that we are thinking about or shortly before it. We use past perfect progressive, not past progressive, to say how long something had been happening up to the past moment. For example, we had been walking since sunrise and we were hungry, not we were walking. When she arrived, she had been traveling for 20 hours, not she was traveling. Progressive forms are mostly used to talk about more temporary actions and situations. When we talk about longer lasting or permanent situations, we prefer simple forms. For example, my legs were stiff because I have been standing still for a long time. Progressive forms generally emphasize the continuation of an activity. We use simple tenses to emphasize the idea of completion. For example, I had been reading science fiction, and my mind was full of strange images. I had read all the magazines. I had read all the magazines and was beginning to get bored. In case you might find that those knowledge are a little bit hard to remember, we also provide you a summary. Please take a picture and make sure that you will note this down in your notebook. So it's the end of our language focus part.